Why is Russia fighting Ukraine? Is it about land, history, or power? What if I told you this war is a mix of all three? Today, we'll break down the truth behind this war, step by step, so it's easy to understand. Stick with me, and by the end, you'll see the full picture. The war between Russia and Ukraine didn't start overnight. To understand it, we need to look at the history that connects these two countries. A long time ago, there was a powerful medieval state called Kievan Rus. It included parts of modern-day Ukraine and Russia, with Kiev as its center. Over centuries, these areas developed differently, but they always shared some cultural and historical ties. Fast forward to the 20th century. Ukraine became part of the Soviet Union, a powerful state led by Russia. But in 1991, the Soviet Union broke apart, and Ukraine became an independent country. While Ukrainians were happy to be free, Russia felt like it had lost an important part of its territory and influence. This is where the tension began. Ukraine wanted to move closer to the West, while Russia wanted to keep Ukraine in its sphere of influence. After becoming independent, Ukraine faced a tough choice. Should it work with Russia or with countries like the United States and European nations? This decision shaped Ukrainian politics for decades. In 2014, things took a dramatic turn. Ukraine's president at the time, Viktor Yanukovych, decided not to sign a trade deal with the European Union. Many Ukrainians were angry because they wanted stronger ties with Europe. This led to massive protests, called the Euromaidan protests. These protests forced Yanukovych to flee the country. Russia saw this as a coup supported by Western countries. In response, Russia took over Crimea, a region in southern Ukraine, and supported rebels in eastern Ukraine. This created a long-lasting conflict that didn't end for years. In February 2022, Russia launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. But why? Russian President Vladimir Putin has always believed that Ukraine should not exist as a completely independent country. He has said many times that Russians and Ukrainians are one people. To him, Ukraine's growing ties with Western countries, especially NATO, were a threat to Russia. NATO is a military alliance between the US, Canada, and many European countries. Its goal is to protect its members from threats. Over the years, NATO has expanded closer to Russia's borders, which made Putin angry. When Ukraine started talking about joining NATO, Putin decided to act. He claimed the invasion was to protect Russian-speaking people in Ukraine and to stop NATO's expansion. But many experts believe these are just excuses. Putin's real goal is to bring Ukraine back under Russia's control and show the world that Russia is still a superpower. When Russia invaded, it thought the war would be over quickly. They planned to take Kiev, the capital, in just a few days. But things didn't go as expected. Ukraine fought back harder than anyone thought possible. Soldiers, civilians, and even old people took up arms to defend their land. Western countries, like the US and those in Europe, sent weapons, money, and aid to help Ukraine. Cities like Kiev and Kharkiv became battlegrounds, but Ukraine's army managed to push Russian forces back in many areas. Despite this, the war caused massive destruction. Buildings were bombed, families were torn apart, and millions of people had to leave their homes. Russia focused on eastern and southern Ukraine, where they already had some control. But even there, Ukraine kept fighting, refusing to give up. One of the biggest reasons Ukraine has been able to resist is because of support from Western countries. The US and its allies have sent billions of dollars in military aid, including advanced weapons. They've also imposed tough sanctions on Russia, which hurt its economy. But this support has created new problems. Russia sees it as a direct attack by the West. Some fear this could lead to a larger war involving NATO and Russia, which would be catastrophic. Others argue that supporting Ukraine is necessary to stop Russia from invading other countries in the future. This war hasn't just affected Ukraine and Russia, it has impacted the entire world. Russia is one of the biggest exporters of gas and oil, while Ukraine is a major producer of wheat. The war disrupted these supplies, causing energy prices to rise and food shortages in some countries. Europe, which depended on Russian gas, had to look for new energy sources. The war has also changed global politics. Countries like China, India, and Turkey are watching closely to see how the conflict plays out. China, in particular, has been walking a fine line, supporting Russia in some ways while not fully backing the war. At the heart of this war are ordinary people. In Ukraine, families have been separated, children have lost their schools, and entire cities have been destroyed. Millions of Ukrainians are now refugees, living in other countries. In Russia, people are also suffering. Many don't support the war, but are afraid to speak out because of strict government control. Young Russian men are being sent to fight in a war they might not believe in. This war has shown the world how much people are willing to fight for their freedom, but it has also shown the devastating cost of war. The Russia-Ukraine war is about more than just borders. It's a battle between two visions, one of independence and democracy, and another of control and power. The truth is, this war affects all of us, no matter where we live. It's a reminder of the dangers of unchecked ambition and the importance of standing up for what's right. Thank you for watching. Stay informed, stay thoughtful, and let's hope for peace.